Hey everybody, my name is Jason and this is Netminder Review. It is time for another edition of the Sunday NHL Goaltender Power Rankings, wherein I rank who I believe are currently the top 10 netminders in the NHL based on season-long statistics and current play. Keep in mind that this power ranking does not include goaltenders who are currently injured. It is a combination of season statistics combined with recent play. It is partly objective and partly subjective, and it is time for another installment. Now, before I get started on who is on the power ranking this week, I'd like to just say that this was by far the most difficult week for me to do this power ranking since I began doing it. There are goaltenders who have had really strong season-long statistics, who have been on my power ranking, who had bad weeks. And there are goaltenders who have not had particularly amazing statistics throughout the year, maybe good to strong, but not amazing, who had really fantastic weeks. And so it was really difficult. I really struggled. There were some people that I put on that I wasn't sure whether or not it really warranted them being on there. And there were a couple people I dropped off that it was a little hard to either drop off or move them down. And there were people who have never been on the power ranking since I started doing it that I really thought deserved to be on there this week, but there were just 10 names that were a little bit better. So I really struggled this week. I really dug into everyone's numbers as much or more than I normally do. And it took me a lot longer to come up with who I believe the power ranking should be this week. Now, that being said, it's really in the bottom half of the power ranking where I really debated over who belongs there. The top half, not so much, but I will have some comments about some of the names on the list as we go. Before I go on from that statement to the power ranking, let me also say that while he's not on the power ranking, kudos to David Ayres, who played yesterday for the Carolina Hurricanes after their top two goaltenders were injured and came in and stopped 8 out of 10 shots to earn a victory for Carolina. If you haven't seen that story, if you haven't watched the highlights or the interviews or the post-game celebrations or any of that, I would urge you to go watch it. It's really a cool story. So his name is David Ayres. I believe it's spelled Ayres. Go check that out because, wow, that was really neat. That was really an awesome situation. So let's dig into the power rankings this week. So number 10, who was on the ranking last week, but moves down a spot. He was 9 last week. He moves to 10 this week. And that is from the Vancouver Canucks, Jacob Markstrom. Now, Markstrom has been, hold on here. Yep. Markstrom has been very strong. He's 3-1-1 in his last 5 games, 6-3-1 in his last 10. I don't look at record as being the most important factor, because you can have a goaltender that plays really strong, but still that goalie might not get a win if his team can't score. So I'm not highlighting those win-loss totals simply as my only evidence for Markstrom being on here, but his statistics are strong, and he has had some just amazing games lately. You know, Vancouver has really had an issue this year where they've allowed themselves to be outshot, and yet they're still in a fight for first place in the Pacific Division. That is largely due to the play of Jacob Markstrom, who has had some amazing games where he has faced some very high shot totals and yet still held his team in all the way to winning the game. And of course, yesterday Vancouver was able to not just edge out Boston, but absolutely smash Boston in the face. Now, that was a situation where Vancouver won largely due to fantastic offense, but their goaltending has been very strong, and Markstrom has been a huge part of why Vancouver is in realistic contention for first place in the Pacific. At number 9, and since I've been doing the power rankings, this is the first time that this goaltender has made it on. So at number 9 from the Vegas Knights, Marc-Andre Fleury. Fleury, pardon me for a moment. Fleury is 4-1-0 in his last 5 games. 6-3-1 in his last 10, but his last 5 have been really exceptional. Vegas is really coming on strong, starting to look like the Vegas Knights that we've come to know since they first came into the league. They're now in a realistic position to be a part of that battle in the Pacific. And so that's going to be a fascinating one. And Fleury is playing some of his best hockey of the season right now. And so though he has not been on the power rankings yet this year for me, he has been just below the line, just missing out on a couple of occasions. And this week he finally makes his way on. So at number 9, Marc-Andre Fleury. At number 8, down from last week, down from 6. Now, 2 weeks ago he was 9. Last week he had moved up to 6. Now he's back down to 8. He had spent the first few power rankings near the top, up in the 2, 3, 4 range, and that is from Dallas, Ben Bishop. So Bishop more recently has fallen off a bit. 3-2-0 in his last 5, 5-4-1 in his last 10. And his statistics have taken a little bit of a hit. For most of the season, he was near the top in goals against and save percentage. Now he's starting to slide down just a little bit. Still has really great numbers, but they're just not in the top few goalies like they were earlier. Some recent play has really hurt that, and so he slides from number 6 on the power ranking to number 8. Number 7, and this is his first time on the power ranking, and this is one of those situations where I could see anyone watching this video scratching their heads when they see this name. But if you've been watching him play lately, I just couldn't hold him off the board any longer. He's just been too good, and for a team that has been so bad all year, to now win 6 in a row with him in net, or his last 6 games that he's started, they've won. And that's from New Jersey, Mackenzie Blackwood. Now, if you haven't been following Mackenzie Blackwood, go watch some highlights of him. Go look at the shot totals the last few games that he's played. I did a video just a couple days ago on Mackenzie Blackwood, so if you're interested in seeing the information behind why it is that he deserves to be up here, go back and watch that video. While I'm mentioning that video, I do want to make one correction. In that video, I stated that Mackenzie Blackwood was going to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of this season. That was an incorrect statement. He's going to be a restricted free agent. I had the correct information in my notes, which I had taken from Cap Friendly. If you're not familiar with capfriendly.com, you should check it out. Fantastic website. But anyway, I had it written in my notes that he was a restricted free agent, but the word unrestricted came out while I was speaking. And thank you to a viewer who caught that and pointed that out to me. I appreciate that. So anyway, if you haven't been following Mackenzie Blackwood, maybe because he's on the New Jersey the Devils and the Devils haven't really been worth following this year, take the time to go watch my last video so you can see his statistics, and then go watch some highlights of Mackenzie Blackwood. He has been just beyond impressive. And a team that has struggled to win anything this year is now winning, and it's really because of him. 6 wins in a row for Mackenzie Blackwood. And the Devils, there's no hope for the Devils making it into the playoffs this late in the season, but at least they can look at their goaltending situation, at least from a starting standpoint, and say, we've got something finally, especially if they go ahead and give him an extension. Let's see. Number 6. Number 6 this week, up from last week. Last week he was number 8. This week he moves up to 6, and that's Yaroslav Halak from the Boston Bruins. So Halak and Bishop trade places this week. Last week Bishop was 6, Halak was 8. But Halak is 7-2-1 in his last 10 starts. And, I know he plays for Boston. Boston's very good. I know that they had a clunker yesterday, but they're number 1 in the NHL. But it's not that Halak's numbers are great because he plays for Boston. It's a both and. Tuukka Rask and Yaroslav Halak's numbers are great because they play for Boston. But Boston is playing great because they have 2 great goaltenders. Halak has been on my power ranking every week that I've done it, and he deserves to be there. His numbers are great. He's winning games, and he's just playing well. The Bruins are in a wonderful situation where it just doesn't matter who's in net for them. They know that they are going to be able to trust their goaltender to give them the saves that they need in every game. Number 5 this week is, I think I'm just going to write his name on here in permanent marker because he's been there. I think this is the 3rd week in a row that he's number 5, and that's from the Dallas Stars' Anton Khudobin. Now, Khudobin is 7-2-1 in his last 10, and that does not count today. I'm pretty sure that Khudobin played today and got a win, I think. Don't quote me on that. Today is Sunday, February 23rd, and this information is not reflective of today's games. The games are still going on as I'm recording this. So I think Khudobin got another win today. But he's 7-2-1 in his last 10. His statistics are very strong. He's in the top 5 in the NHL in goals against and save percentage among non-injured goaltenders. Let's see here. He's, I think he's 4th in goals against average, and I think he's also 4th in save percentage in the NHL right now among non-injured goaltenders. And Dallas is really in another situation between Bishop and Khudobin, much like Boston is, that it just doesn't really matter who they have in net. They can go out there every night expecting a strong start and great goaltending. Now, I know, a couple nights ago that Bishop got pulled against the Blues, but the Blues are really starting to climb their way back out of that slump that they were in, and they're looking pretty strong. So, some of those goals that Bishop let in that game, maybe they weren't great, but they weren't horrible either. And, if Bishop falls off a little, well, Khudobin's not falling off. So Dallas fans and Boston fans, as much as any 2 teams in the NHL, can feel really strong about whoever is in goal on any given night. Number 4, dropping from last week. Last week he was number 3, and that's Tristan Jarry. Tristan Jarry of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, Jarry is 7-3-0 in his last 10. He is 2nd in the NHL in goals against among non-injured goalies, and 2nd in the NHL, or tied for 2nd in the NHL, in save percentage among non-injured goalies. He's playing extremely well, and he has been splitting time with Matt Murray a little bit more lately, but when he's been in, he's been good, and he just continues to show that he deserves maybe the lion's share of the starts. And, really Pittsburgh is in another situation, even though they've lost 3 in a row, if I'm not mistaken. They're in a situation also where, Matt Murray's been playing better than he did early this season. And so that's another fan base that can look at their goaltending situation and feel pretty good about it no matter who goes in. So who are, 3-2-1. Number 3 is on the board for the first time this week. The reason it's his first time on the board is twofold. One, because he hadn't been starting that many games. And two, because he hadn't played overall throughout the course of the season that many games. But with Philip Grubauer injured, this goaltender now taking the reins of the Colorado Avalanche has played enough games and is going to be playing enough games, and his statistics are so strong that Pavel Francouz deserves to jump onto the board for the first time and move way up it. So Francouz is third in the NHL in goals against and tied for second in the NHL in save percentage among non-injured goaltenders. He is 6-2-2 in his last 10 starts, and I believe he's won his last 2, if I'm not mistaken, and I believe one of those was a shutout. So Francouz is really, really good. And I think Grubauer was playing much better recently, and in fact so well that I put Grubauer on the power ranking last week for the first time, but it was like the day after he had gotten injured, and so I had said last week he wouldn't be on it this week if his injury persisted. Well, his injury is persisting. Francouz is getting the starts. Francouz was signed to an extension this week, 2 years, $4 million with an average annual value of $2 million. And he went right out afterward and got a shutout, and then I believe won another game as well. So Francouz is playing well, and Colorado fans who were concerned about losing Grubauer so far can be at ease and rest peacefully knowing that their goaltending situation still looks pretty good. 2-1. All right, number 2 from the Tampa Bay Lightning, Andrei Vasilevskiy. Now, Vasilevskiy lost his last 2 games. I said that there were players on here this week that have had fantastic season statistics who didn't have a good week. But I'm not going to move Vasilevskiy down because he lost his last 2 games after he won, 23 out of 25 or 21 out of 25 or something crazy like that. I mean, Vasilevskiy is still a fantastic goaltender. Vasilevskiy is still one of the top goaltenders in the NHL right now. Vasilevskiy still deserves to be at the top of this board. Now, if the Tampa Bay Lightning lose every game they play this week that Vasilevskiy is in goal, then I'll revisit it next Sunday. But right now, he's, let's see here, 8-2-0 in his last 10. And, of course, those 2 losses are the last 2 games. But, again, I think he won 21 of his last 25 or somewhere in that neighborhood. He's just really, really darn good. And, he is last year's Vezina winner, and he's just showing again this year that wasn't a fluke. He deserves to be there. So at number 1, Vasilevskiy was number 2 last week. He stays number 2. And Tuukka Rask was number 1 last week. And Tuukka Rask stays number 1. Now, this is another situation where Rask has been amazing all year. And then yesterday he has that clunker against Vancouver where he allows 6 goals. But a goaltender who has been number 1 on the power ranking for 3 or 4 weeks, I think, does not deserve to drop just because he has 1 bad game. He's proven all year long that he deserves to be here, and so here he is. He's 8-2-0 in his last 10. He has the best goals against average in the NHL. He has the best save percentage in the NHL, and apart from yesterday, that 1 game yesterday, he's been fantastic. So Tuukka Rask stays at number 1 this week. Vasilevskiy number 2. Francouz at 3, his first time on the board again because he's finally just playing enough. Jari drops from 3 to 4. Hudobin stays at 5. Halak moves up to 6. Blackwood, what a story about Blackwood. I'm just fascinated, honestly, by Blackwood right now. But anyway, Blackwood, his first time on the board at number 7. Bishop drops from 6 to 8. Fleury, personally one of my favorite goalies in the NHL, makes it onto the board for the first time at 9. And Markstrom drops from 9 to 10. Now, 2 goaltenders that I really wanted to put on here. One has never been on here before, and one was on the very first week and then fell off. But I just couldn't justify putting them ahead of any of these guys. And that's Carter Hart from Philadelphia. And Carter Hart he's 4-1-0 in his last 5, 6-4-0 in his last 10. And Philadelphia is really making a push in their division, which, by the way, with Pittsburgh losing their last 3, Philadelphia's, I haven't looked at the numbers today, but Philadelphia is probably going to be breathing right down their neck. And then another one that I thought deserved some real consideration was Antti Raanta from Arizona. Raanta is, 3-2-0 in his last 5. Forgive the motorcycles driving by. There was a road like right on the other side of this window. And 5-4-1 in his last 10, but his numbers have been really strong. He's been playing really well. So here's the board as it stands, and I've talked about the people who are on the board for the first time here. Fleury, Blackwood, and Francouz. So who's off the board that was on last week? First of all, Elvis Merzlikins, and he has taken a massive fall. He appeared on the board up here, number 2 or 3, I think. And then I think it was 2 weeks ago, I was saying like he or Rask, either one could be number 1. I had him at number 2, but it was like a 1-1A situation. Last week he fell, I think it was to 4th, if I remember correctly. And now he's off the board. He's 0-2-3 in his last 5 games, having allowed 16 goals. So he just has fallen off. And the Blue Jackets announced today that they've recalled Korpisalo from their AHL affiliate in Cleveland. 2 weeks ago, I would have said when Korpisalo comes back, he's coming back to sit on the bench for most games. But now you got to think that Tortorella's going to throw Korpisalo out there and see how he looks. And if he looks strong, then he's going to go right back into the starting spot. And Merzlikins, who was quite a story for a while, is going to he's going to be the one who's playing the fewer minutes. Also off this week was Grubauer due to injury, and Robin Lehner. Robin Lehner was 10 last week, and he's been kind of on right around 9 or 10, and then off, and then back on, and then off. And he's 1-3-1 in his last 5, allowing 20 goals in those 5 games. So an average of 4 goals per game. Not great. And Chicago's really, they're kind of dead in the water at this point. So Lehner falls off due to poor play. Merzlikins falls off because his play has suffered quite a bit. Grubauer goes off because of injury, but Francouz just jumps right in and takes his place. And so those are the changes. A couple of other goaltenders that had good weeks or made strong cases. Jordan Binnington, who had 2 shutouts in a row. However, in all fairness, 1 shutout was 17 shots and 1 shutout was 14 shots. He played well, but he wasn't particularly tested. And then someone else I just want to point out that I was really considering. He didn't really warrant making it on, but I'm keeping my eye on him, and that's Igor Shesterkin of the New York Rangers. So we'll see whether these 10 guys hold on to these spots or whether maybe Binnington or Shesterkin make a little bit of a push next week. So these are the numbers for the week, or these are the names anyway. I really appreciate you watching. It would mean the world to me if you would subscribe to this channel. And I would really appreciate it if you'd hit like and share these videos with your friends. Please go back and watch some of my other videos as well. I'm going to be doing these power ranking videos every week on Sunday, but I'm also doing other videos throughout the week from time to time, especially when there's a story that really catches my eye or piques my interest. Thank you so much for watching, and have yourself an awesome day. Bye now.